All right. Welcome to the premiere episode of the In and Out Basketball Podcast. I got my partner over here, right across from me at the table. How are you feeling? Good? Okay. That's nice. Me too.
My name's Travis, by the way.
Yeah. So, let's get started. First off, free agency predictions. There are a lot of big-time free agents in the 2018-2019 season. Most notably, LeBron James. So let's start there. LeBron James, where do you think he's going to go and why?
I think he's going to go to the Indiana Pacers. And that's a really overlooked place because he has Victor Oladipo to take the pressure off him scoring. He can create his own shot, and it's not that far from his hometown, Akron. So his family issue won't be that much of a thing. And it's a better fit than LA and Philly because, Lonzo and Ben Simmons, they can't really shoot consistently. So, yeah.
Right. I also felt like Indiana would be the best option for him because you obviously have Oladipo there. And then if you bring LeBron in, maybe he can get, Chris Paul player in there. And then you have a big three of Oladipo, Chris Paul, LeBron. And then you have shooters like Bogdanovic and Collison all around them. I felt like that was the perfect fit for him. But since the Indiana Pacers are not on that list of LeBron's, I think he'll go to the Lakers. And the main reason, the big domino in all of this is Paul George. And obviously, Paul George has made it publicly clear, as we're going to talk about later, that he wants to be in LA. And I feel like if Paul George is in LA, LeBron will go to LA, which means one of two other superstar players will go there along with him, as we'll discuss later. Obviously, it's LA. There's an improved lifestyle. It's Hollywood. It's everything. And you also have a better supporting cast. You have Paul George, Kuzma. I assume he'll be there. One of Kuzma, Ingram, and Lonzo Ball will be there. I'm confident in that. You can sign more pieces. And another thing is that people act like being in the Western Conference is some sort of negative thing. But I feel like for LeBron, you want to be in the West. Because if I'm LeBron, the one thing that people always criticize me about is my finals record. And if I go to the West, I know that if I can't get to the finals, I can't lose in the finals. And if I get to the finals, I'm probably going to be the favorite over whoever comes out of the East.
No, that's not true because, every time basically LeBron's been to the finals, almost every time they've been the underdog, and that's because they run the LeBron James system. And that basically marginalizes his teammates to a point where they have to play for him, not with him. Mm-hmm. Because they don't run an actual system.
Right, that's true, but
Lonzo Ball will actually have to be traded if he goes to the Lakers because
we'll get
because LeBron wants to run the point, so Lonzo has to play off of LeBron.
And who wants to deal with LeVar?
Yeah.
Anyways, next off, Paul George. Obviously, I've stated that I believe he's going to the Los Angeles Lakers. It's a hometown team. He's from LA, and since last season with the Indiana Pacers, he's made it public that he wants to be in LA and he wants to be a Laker, so much so that even in the locker room, he said so to teammates.
Yeah.
What do you think about that idea?
Yeah, I agree that he's going to go to LA. Mm-hmm. OKC, that wasn't a really good fit because Russell Westbrook, he's kind of like LeBron in the system that he plays because it's all about him. So, Paul George, that he probably doesn't want to be a part of that system. And, LeBron, he's obviously a way better player, so.
Right, and going back to Russ, I feel like Russ he gets so much flack, but it's valid. Because, when players go to OKC, initially they go there wanting to play with Russ, like Paul George and Melo did, but
no, they didn't want to play with him. They got traded.
Well, Melo did. He had a no trade clause, but he waived it to go to OKC.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Paul George didn't have an option, but clearly players get worse around Westbrook. That's undebatable. We saw that clearly with Oladipo, which we will talk about more later as well with another potential trade that is coming up. So, Paul
Even
George,
Kevin Durant, too.
right. So Paul George, we both say Lakers. Next one, Kevin Durant. He has an opt-out in his contract, and he's expected to opt out. So where do you think he'll land?
He'll land with he'll stay with the Golden State Warriors.
Okay.
That's not even a question because he already stated to ESPN's Rachel Nichols that he wanted to resign there.
Okay.
And why would he want to leave? When he has like all the system, like the talent in the system, Steve Kerr. He has a ball movement type system, and that helps his game because he's not the leader, as we've seen.
But I kind of have a counter to that because my answer sort of depends on another player, Kawhi Leonard. And if Kawhi does not go to LA, I believe KD will go to LA. But if Kawhi does end up going, I think KD will stay with the Warriors. And the reason I think LA is such a viable option for him is, so recently Bob Myers, the GM of the Warriors, made a joke about Kevin Durant riding, the Warriors' coattails and not really earning his championships. And I feel like that's the one thing that has been eating at KD over these past 2 years with the Warriors. And now he's hearing it inside the house as well. So I think the Lakers are a real threat to the Warriors and their dominance.
That's a joke. And I don't think that should be taken with that much weight. He's gonna stay with the Warriors.
Yeah, I'd bet on him staying as well. Next up, Boogie Cousins. A lot of people forgot about him because he was out from I think February to the end of the season with his Achilles injury. So where do you think he's gonna land?
He's gonna land with the LA Lakers. Mm-hmm. He unfollowed the Pelicans on Instagram, as you may have saw. Mm-hmm. And I believe that PG is also going there with him. And that's one of the main reasons why he should go there. And, the team did well without him in the playoffs. They obviously stepped up. They stepped up their game, and I feel he's unhappy.
Right, but I feel like they did so well without him that I feel like he believes that if he and AD are both healthy, if he and Anthony Davis are both healthy, they're a real threat to the Warriors and any top team. The Warriors, the Rockets, they're a threat to anybody. So I believe that he stays with New Orleans over this upcoming summer.
Okay, moving on to DeAndre Jordan. So where do you think he will land?
I feel like he's staying with the Clippers. Really, they're like DeAndre Jordan's more of a utility big. He grabs boards. He runs the floor hard. He catches lobs. He blocks shots. Things like that. He's not really an ideal free agent that's the number one guy you can build around. So because of that, I feel like there's no other ideal situation for him. And he's not highly demanded. So I think he just stays put in LA with the Clippers.
Yeah, that's where he's gonna get the most money too, and I never really heard any places where he could go, and Clippers would probably be his best bet.
Yeah.
Catching lobs.
From no longer CP3, but Lou Williams.
Yeah. Right.
So next up, the most confusing superstar of the bunch is Kawhi Leonard, and obviously he demanded a trade from the Spurs recently. He sat out this full season. He is eligible for the Supermax still, but we do not know if that's the number one priority for him, or lifestyle and other basketball things are. So where do you feel like Kawhi is going to end up or stay put?
Well, he's going to stay with the San Antonio Spurs because,
your team?
Yeah, sure. So the Spurs, they don't really have to trade him because they don't have a right to move him like
he
that.
He still has 2 years on the deal.
And if you remember back in 2008 when the Grizzlies traded Pau Gasol to the LA Lakers, Pop was really mad that their rivals helped out their bigger rivals in LA. So I don't think he would really make that move and help out the Lakers.
Right, but I feel like if Kawhi gets traded, are the Spurs really much? I mean, with LaMarcus Aldridge and Popovich, I don't think they're winning a championship. So because of that, I feel like they would be open to trading to Kawhi to LA and then just tanking and building through the draft.
No, the Spurs don't tank. Because, Greg Popovich isn't that type of coach. He's never actually embraced the tank.
Right.
They're always going to compete with him.
Yeah.
There.
Mm-hmm. So I feel like Kawhi, similar to Kevin Durant, this actually depends on KD and his decision. I feel like if KD goes to the Warriors, Kawhi if KD stays with the Warriors, Kawhi will get traded to LA. But if KD comes to the Lakers, Kawhi will stay in San Antonio. Because I think in his mind, it's more of Lakers or bust for him. That's the team he wants to go to, the only team. And I feel like other teams, since he only has 2 years on his deal, and I think he has an opt-out of this year after this year, I feel like other teams will kind of shy away from big deals. Like I've heard the Celtics a lot involved in packaging Jaylen Brown and a couple picks and maybe Terry Rozier or Marcus Smart for Kawhi. But I feel like if you're the Celtics, do you really want to break up that sensational young core for a guy who may only be there a year and then bounce?
If Kawhi gets traded, it's not to the Lakers because they would probably have to put Lonzo Ball in the deal.
Right.
And I feel like that small city doesn't want that LeVar Ball attention there.
As a Spurs fan, if we threw in, if the Lakers threw in Lonzo and let's say Ingram, would you take that deal for Kawhi?
I wouldn't because...
You would? Okay.
I would not.
Uh-huh.
Because LeVar would try to outcoach Popovich. And that's not really going to work in that type of environment.
And then if we throw in Kuzma, Lonzo, Ingram, and Kuzma, all three?
They're not going to help out their rivals. That's interesting.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on, we've got predictions for the draft. The draft is obviously tomorrow night. And so we're going to be looking at really the four major teams in the lottery that everyone wants to know about. And these four teams are the Phoenix Suns, who have the number 1 overall pick, the Chicago Bulls, who I think have the 7th pick, the Cleveland Cavaliers, who have the 8th pick, and the San Antonio Spurs, who have the 15th pick, the 18th pick, something in that range. So let's start with the Suns. Who do you think they're going to draft, and why?
They're going to take DeAndre Ayton because he's the consensus number 1. Luka Doncic doesn't really fit there because they have already Elfrid Payton, Devin Booker, and TJ Warren, Josh Jackson, so there's not really a place for him on that team.
Mm-hmm.
And DeAndre Ayton would be a perfect pairing with Devin Booker because it would be like, people are saying it would be like Kobe and Shaq.
Right, I also agree. I think the Suns are taking DeAndre Ayton because, like you said, I feel like this is going to be Kobe and Shaq 2.0. He's a hometown kid. He played at Arizona for college, and he has the complete offensive game. He can post up, he can shoot, he has a mid-range game, and he's also physically as dominating as I've really ever seen a player.
Yeah, that's true. And even though he might not be the greatest defender, he has a 7'6" wingspan.
Yeah.
So that could really help his potential on the defensive side of the floor.
Mm-hmm. So DeAndre Ayton, the clear choice for the Suns, we feel. Next, the Chicago Bulls. Who do you think they're taking? This should be interesting.
I feel like they should go best available over the need. Even though they have Chris Dunn, his potential, I feel like it's not really that high. Trae Young, it's either boom or bust. He could be like almost a Steph Curry. He could shoot from anywhere, and he perfectly adapts to today's game. So I feel like they should take a chance and hope that he becomes the next superstar.
Right. I have them picking between Michael Porter Jr. and Mo Bamba. Bamba, the Magic are really interested in him, and he's projected to go number 6 to the Magic, but if he's available, I prefer the Bulls take him, because the Bulls are already set at the point, the shooting guard, and the one of their bigs. They have Chris Dunn at the point guard. He seems like the point guard for the future. You've got Zach LaVine. He's definitely the player to build around. And you've got Lauri Markkanen as a nice shooter, and he fits well with the Bulls. But what they really need is a small forward and another big that fits well with Markkanen, and defensively especially. And I feel like Mo Bamba would be the perfect fit. He is a power forward. He is incredible defensively and athletically. He is long and athletic, so he'll help out there with the Bulls. And then obviously Michael Porter Jr., he's more of a wild card because obviously he sat out for basically the whole year. And in the 2 games he played, from what I hear, he was absolutely horrible. But he was the number 1 overall player in high school. And I feel like if you want to go boom or bust, you should take Michael Porter Jr.
I mean, that's way more of a boom or bust because he has hip injuries and back injuries, which are no joke because they derail the career like Larry Bird, and they might derail a career of Isaiah Thomas.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I don't think Mo Bamba would really be at number 7.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the Dallas Mavericks or the Orlando Magic might take him because they need another big man to pair alongside their shooters, their big man shooters.
Okay, and then at number 8, the Cavaliers, of course, have the 8th pick. This is an interesting one. What do you think? What do you think they're going to do here?
I mean, they should probably try to keep LeBron because, I mean, obviously he's the best player in the world, top 5, top 10 player of all time, obviously. And in order to keep LeBron, they should probably trade for Kemba Walker and go into like a win now mode situation. Kemba, Kevin Love, and LeBron right there. But if you know that LeBron's leaving, you should probably take a replacement for him. Maybe you go Michael Porter Jr., even though he has those injury risks. Or maybe you pull the trigger on Mikal Bridges. He's an NBA-ready player. He's already 22 years old, so I feel like he can contribute right away.
Mm-hmm. Right. I agree. At this point, the Cavaliers have to do everything they can to keep LeBron. And I feel like the move that gives them the best shot at that is trading the pick for Kemba Walker in a last-ditch effort to keep LeBron. And the ideal trade, I feel like, would be, of course, Kemba Walker to the Cavs, along with Nicholas Batum and his $22 million. And in exchange, the Cavaliers send George Hill, Jordan Clarkson, Kyle Korver, and that 8th pick to the Hornets.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's move on to the San Antonio Spurs, who maybe it may be time to replace Kawhi. So, who do you think the San Antonio Spurs will select?
Right. Well, I feel like Dante DiVincenzo out of Villanova is the perfect fit because he can do a little bit of everything. He can shoot, he can play defense, he's athletic, and I feel like he'll develop into a really, really solid role player, like a better version of a Trevor Ariza type player, and that's valuable whether Kawhi is on the team next season or not.
I feel like the Spurs should go for Kevin Huerter from Maryland because of his clutch shooting ability. He can run the pick and roll extremely well, extremely efficient at that. He can pull up off the dribble, so he's not just a spot-up shooter. And he's a pretty good passer, too. He has a 3.4 assists per 36 minutes, so he could be that playmaker as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like they should go with Kevin Huerter.
Okay. Next up, we have the Dwight Howard trade. This obviously went down this morning. Dwight Howard was traded to the Nets in exchange for Timofey Mozgov and 2 second-round picks. The Mozgov and the 2 second-round picks went to Charlotte, of course. So what was your reaction to this trade when you first saw this?
This was a win for the Brooklyn Nets because they have enough cap space for 2 max contracts in 2019 offseason. And I feel like they should go after Kyrie Irving. I mean, he's from New Jersey. He went to high school there. He's a Nets fan growing up. So I feel like, and Kyrie wants to be in NY too, NYC. So they should probably go after Kyrie. And if you know that Kyrie's going there, you should probably go after like Klay Thompson, because I feel like that would fit well in the Nets system, and that shooting off of Kyrie's slashing should work well.
Right. So when I first saw this trade went down, of course, you texted me, and the first thing I thought was Dwight Howard is completely washed. He's been traded, what, 4 times, 5 times throughout the past few years?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not much anymore. The second thing, the Brooklyn Nets freed up, like you said, salary for 2 max contracts in the 2019-2020 season, and I feel like the number 1 player on their list, like you also said, should be Kyrie Irving. He's from there. He was a Nets fan growing up. He's already said that he looks to be with the Nets or the Knicks by next season, or not next season, but the season after. And now moving on to the Charlotte Hornets, they're in tank mode, and I feel like because of that, they're basically guaranteed to trade Kemba Walker, and that has kind of an effect on really the whole NBA when you think about it, because if Kemba goes to Cleveland, now LeBron has to seriously consider the Cavaliers as a real option to stay.
Yeah, I mean, Charlotte, they got rid of some salary. They cleared up $9 million in salary, approximately. So they're gonna tank, obviously, and they should probably build around the player for that they draft next year, because they don't really have many players to build around. I mean, Malik Monk, he didn't really do much this past season. And they got 2 other draft picks, which they could also use in a trade, maybe, involving one of their bad contracts or something.
Right. Batum.
Yeah.
Okay. So moving on to the NBA awards, we have predictions for those. The award show is, I believe, June 26th, next Thursday. June 27th, actually.
25th.
25th? Okay, yeah. June 25th, next Thursday. So we'll go through each of the major awards, tell us who we have winning them and why. So who do you have for the MVP award, the big one?
James Harden, and it's not even close. He's the best offensive player in the league. He actually tried, unlike LeBron James, on defense. And he was on the best team in the league, too. And that's what it's all about, basically.
Right.
If you're the most valuable player, you have to lead your team to wins. You can't be most valuable and be the 4 seed in the East, the weak East.
Right. If this were only in the regular season, if fans only saw the regular season, I would say it's a guarantee in James Harden. It's not even close. But LeBron James had one of the greatest playoff performances that I've ever seen, and in NBA history, really. I feel like in the playoffs is when he really cemented this MVP award up. Because if you look closely, he carried the Cavaliers through the Pacers and the Celtics and really kept them close, especially in Game 1 against the Warriors. The Pacers and the Celtics were both definitely the better teams, but
they were the better coach teams.
And the better overall teams.
They weren't.
The Pacers?
They were not the better teams.
Okay.
They were just the better coach teams. When LeBron plays the LeBron system against well-coached teams, he's guaranteed to have a tough time.
Mm-hmm. Right, especially the Celtics. They gave him problems. But yeah, he really kept the Cavs. He was the reason the Cavs got as far as they did.
Yeah, but the MVP is a regular season award.
Right. So I feel like James Harden is most likely going to be the winner, but LeBron deserves it more, in my opinion.
Well, you can't give the MVP to a guy who walked 75% of his team's plays. He walked 75%. Right. He was just standing on the perimeter. Mm-hmm. He needs to know how to conserve energy by going into the post and working out of there and getting it to his great shooters. That's how MJ and Kobe, that's how they lasted so long. Uh-huh. And had good years defensively too because of that. Into the later parts of their career.
So next up, Rookie of the Year. This rookie class was it was probably one of the deepest of all time, from top to bottom. So who do you have winning Rookie of the Year?
I'd give it to Donovan Mitchell because he's the most valuable to his team than any other rookie. when Mitchell doesn't show up, they get blown out. So, I mean, he's carrying his team's offense. They don't really have a go-to scorer. I mean, Rudy Gobert's, he doesn't have any offensive game. And Donovan Mitchell, he led his team in scoring as a rookie. So that's impressive,
Took
for
down
sure.
the Thunder.
Yeah, he took down the OKC Thunder, who had more talent, but he carried that team offensively past the Thunder.
Right. Donovan Mitchell was my second pick. I feel like this isn't my prediction, but I feel like the award is going to go to Ben Simmons. I'll just briefly go through this. He averaged, I believe it was 16, 8, and 8 throughout his rookie year. Brought the Sixers to the 3rd seed, led them on that huge 16 or 17 game winning streak at the end
When he
of the
played
year.
easy teams.
Right, those teams were quite weak. But in the playoffs, after round 1, he just completely dropped off in performance. He had 1 point in a game against the Celtics. That's unacceptable, and they got bounced in 5 with Embiid healthy. So I feel like the clear rookie, or I shouldn't say clear, because Donovan Mitchell is close, but the rookie of the year to me is Jason Tatum, because this season, he showed me that he shows up when the team needs him most. Like, against Cleveland especially, in that Game 7, he was sensational. I mean, I couldn't believe the shots he was hitting. And really, after Kyrie and Gordon Hayward went down, he became the Celtics' go-to scorer. He led them in scoring, and he really brought them, along with Jaylen Brown, brought them to where they went, which is Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals. And in the closing minutes, it just slipped out of their hands. So yeah, I have Jason Tatum winning this year's Rookie of the Year.
Again, Rookie of the Year is a regular season award.
Right.
And Jason Tatum and Ben Simmons weren't the best players on their team. Donovan Mitchell was.
Right.
Carried the team offensively. And the Celtics still had Kyrie Irving.
Yeah. But briefly, before I go any further, this is why the NBA should release the awards directly or immediately after the regular season ends, because the playoffs kind of shift everyone's thinking. Like, LeBron clearly was the best player in the world throughout these playoffs. Similarly, Jason Tatum was the best rookie throughout these playoffs. So the NBA needs to release these awards, get rid of this dumb award show. No one watches that. They need to release these awards right after the regular season ends.
Yeah, I mean, they should probably go back to when it was announced in the first week of the playoffs, like it should be. I mean, that nobody's interested in watching that award show anymore. Yeah. It's lost all its hype.
Right. So
nobody even cares about the awards anymore.
Yeah.
Basically. Moving on to Coach of the Year, who do you think will get that award?
I feel like this is pretty clear cut. It's Brad Stevens. They had they had many horrific moments throughout their season, and Brad Stevens rallied his troops throughout and took them all the way to Game 7 against the Cavaliers in the Eastern Conference Finals, where, like I said, it just slipped out of their hands. Obviously, Gordon Hayward goes down in the first 5 minutes. He has to readjust, rethink things, and then they win. They still end up winning 55 games. And immediately after the Gordon Hayward injury, they go on a 16-game winning streak, I think it was. And Tatum shows up, like I said, plays incredible. And then right at the end of the playoffs, Kyrie Irving goes down for the season. And so now he's lost his his superstar and his star player, his two best players. And still he manages to push the Cavaliers all the way to the limit with that cast that he had, led by Tatum and Brown as the players.
Yeah, I agree. Brad Stevens should get the Coach of the Year. I mean, there really shouldn't be any consideration, but they're going to give it to Dwayne Casey because the coaches themselves, they voted on Dwayne Casey, and he also had the most wins in that conference when nobody expected they'd be the 1 seed.
Yeah.
But it should go to Brad Stevens because of his system and how his players, they play really well in that system.
Right. In that sense, I disagree. I think this award is going to Brad Stevens because Casey, he was horrible his coaching was horrible in the playoff series against the Cavaliers. They got swept largely due to his lack of ability to make adjustments when they're needed, especially in game. So I feel like clearly it's going to Brad Stevens.
Yeah, I mean it should, but it's gonna go to Dwayne Casey, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Next up, Defensive Player of the Year. Last year, who was the Defensive Player of the Year?
It was Draymond Green. Draymond Green, yeah.
And then Kawhi won it the 2 years before, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So this year, who do you think's taking this award?
It's Rudy Gobert because when they had him, they were the best defense in the league.
Right. I feel like Gobert, if he played all 82, he would clearly be the runaway defensive player in the of the league of the year for the year. But he missed, I think it was 30 games. He played around 50 to 55 games or something. So I feel like Al Horford, he was the defensive anchor for the Celtics throughout the playoffs, and they were a sensational defensive team. And, you know, they were the fourth best defense in the NBA. He led them there. He was the man in the middle, protecting the paint. So, yeah, I feel like it's going to Al Horford.
Yeah, but Rudy Gobert, without Rudy Gobert, the Utah Jazz had a 105 defensive rating. Mm-hmm. And with Rudy Gobert, they had a 96.
Right, so that's a very
That's
big
a
difference.
9-point improvement. So
the only thing is, I feel like Gobert played too little games to be given this award.
You gotta look at the impact had. Like the Jazz, they actually had a 11-15 record when Rudy was out, and they're actually 31-17 when they had him. So that shows his defensive prowess for sure. I think that should. The games played shouldn't really affect the award.
All right, moving on. Most improved player. This one is pretty clear. I think I know who you've got. So
yeah, it's Victor Oladipo. Right. That's not even a question. He was looked at as a role player last year with the OKC Thunder, and he became an All-NBA third-team player. He was first-team All-Defense, I believe. Significant improvement in points per game. He averaged 15 last year, and he's averaging 23, so that should significantly help his case for sure.
Right. I also feel like it's 100% Oladipo. This is a runaway, 3.5 miles. Like you said, he experienced significant increases in all of his stats, especially those points per game, and he led those Pacers to an outstanding record of 48-34, where after the Paul George trade, where he and Sabonis were expected to just completely stink it up on the Pacers, people were giving them, the Pacers a D- or even an F grade for that trade. He showed them that the Pacers actually won the trade and led them to a record of 48-34. And he also, I believe, should have beaten the Cavaliers.
Yeah, the Pacers were expected to be a lottery team.
Right.
But Victor Oladipo, he deserves this most improved player, for sure. So, the Sixth Man of the Year, I feel like this should be pretty clear-cut, but you could interpret it however you want, so go.
Yeah, I feel like it's Lou Williams. He was the Clippers' best player off the bench, even though they had Blake Griffin and DJ. Lou Williams was clearly the best player on the court when he was there. The go-to scorer. He averaged 23 points per game off the bench. This really isn't even that close to me.
Yeah, he carried that he carried that team offensively, because without him, they don't really have a go-to option. And he did that off the bench, so obviously Sixth Man of the Year.
Right, so that about wraps it up. This was the first episode of the In and Out Basketball Podcast. Hope you enjoyed it, and we will see you next time.